to go back to some previous testimony of yours, Mr. Ducharme, in 2018, prior to the August 6, 2021 announcement, to sort of measure what you said, what you suggested, I should say, versus what the government produced. So in 2018, when OGO previously studied this issue, your organization sent in a brief that stated the federal government should award points to bidders based on their relationships with Indigenous businesses and communities to ensure that there is Indigenous engagement throughout their supply chain. Is this a recommendation that was accepted and acted upon by this government, in your opinion?
I'm sorry, don't quite understand. Like, was that from corporations that would have to ensure that they had Indigenous inclusion within their opportunity?
Yes, that in going through a procurement process,
yes,
that more points should be awarded to those bidders who have relationships with Indigenous businesses and communities, so not significantly, or not solely on the basis of being recognized as Indigenous through the self-proclamation or officially as the processes we have heard throughout the testimony of this committee, but through the relationships. Do you believe that do you still believe that's important, and do you believe that this recommendation was incorporated into the process?
It has been implemented into some of the process, and I think that's within the Indigenous participation plans. A lot of the government, there is no standard procedure right now or threshold for that. But some of the bigger contracts, there is an Indigenous participation plan that's included within it. And within that participation plan, they talk about community investment, they talk about employment, subcontracting opportunities, and they are awarded points for that. The evaluation of that has to happen with all of them. I know the federal government, and again, there should be a threshold. It shouldn't be just at the discretion of the contracting authority as to whether or not to include an Indigenous participation plan. And I think that's very valuable because, again, that does give the smaller ones. And it is also, as when the Chief Bernard was talking about, with the community investment within these participation plans, they will go into the community. They might help with building a school, building a park. It is happening more. There is seeing it more. That's why some of our corporate members are also hoping that the federal government would recognize our certified Indigenous businesses, because they are working with those businesses, and that could be included within their Indigenous participation plan results.
Thank you for that. However, in the 2018 study, government officials also testified that they encouraged Indigenous businesses to enter joint ventures with non-Indigenous businesses to bid on contracts. In your opinion, should this practice be encouraged, or should the focus be entirely on improving socioeconomic outcomes for First Nations? I shouldn't say entirely, it should be entirely based on that, but should that be done through the not encouraging Indigenous businesses to enter joint ventures with non-Indigenous businesses?
Well, I think joint ventures do have a place, and they are required, because if the smaller Indigenous business, a lot of it could also even be with the insurance requirements, with the bid bonding, that the Indigenous business does not have the capacity to be able to do that. The non-Indigenous business at joint ventures is there to help the Indigenous business grow. There should be a shelf life for a joint venture. I mean, there's been times where a joint venture has been going on 20 years. If it's a true joint venture, that non-Indigenous partner should have helped that Indigenous partner be able to become their own prime contractor themselves. So joint ventures are important, but they have to be looked at and ensure that the benefit is going out, there is growth to the Indigenous businesses. It can't be something that's always going to be able to bid on these contracts and be getting contracts for 20 years because of a JV, and there has been no growth for the Indigenous partner.
In our evaluation of the ArriveCan scandal, we found that there were significant faults in the subcontracting processes. So in your opinion, should there be an overview of the subcontracting process to ensure Indigenous involvement throughout the supply chain?
There is, and that's where I've been saying earlier that there should be a pre-award, post-contract audit done to ensure that what has been claimed to be benefiting Indigenous businesses is happening. For those ArriveCan contracts. Again, I'm not privy to them. I don't know what it is. I just see what the media, and again, media or what is reported needs to be taken with a grain of salt. But if they actually looked at that, and if there was a value to say, okay, well, within that ArriveCan, that went towards the PSIB or the amount of Indigenous procurement, I don't understand. I don't know if any of that value went to the procurement strategy for Indigenous business as part of Indigenous spend.